Greetings Internet, it's Alex from Barefaced, looking rather lonely because we've got lots of things to build, so no one has come to join me in this. I'm armed with my trusty Stingray Special, and here's a novelty. We have a bunch of 15s here. We have an extremely venerable Trace Elliott 1518, 300 watts. It's got a cast aluminium frame fane with a big ceramic magnet on the back of it. It's quite a beast of a vintage driver. I think from the Tolex and the sheer amount of rust and everything, this is Jeff's old cab that's being sold. Late 80s? Early 90s? Maybe early 90s. It's before Trace Elliott moved to the carpet anyway, the green sort of carpety look. Then we have here an upsizing 1215 BB. So this is our lightweight based baritone cab. So you can use it for guitar, you can use it for baritone guitar, you can use it for bass. So it's got a biamped backplate, so we are currently just using the bottom of it, which has a 15 in it, which is a Celestion BN15 400X if I remember correctly. So that's a 400 watt stamped steel frame neo magnet 15. And then over here on loan from Brighton Electric we have a Mark Bass Jeff Berlin signature combo. So that's a single 15 and that's been driven by a Mark Bass head. We're actually using that Mark Bass head, which is set completely flat to drive all three of the cabs, so we're switching between them. So yes, so Mark Bass, little Mark 500, that's their combo head. It's essentially a little Mark without the top on it, and it fits in that cab. And it's been quite interesting because we started out at Barefaced with a 15-inch bass cab, the Barefaced Compact. So that was back in 2008. That sounds a long time ago. When I was in short trousers. And yes, and we had the Barefaced big one, which was a 15 plus a 6.5 two-way, sort of the start of our high accuracy mission, which has ended up with the Big Twin 3, which is probably out of shot there, and the Big Baby 3, which is there, probably also out of shot because that's inconvenient. When it comes to speakers, my view on them is they're there for a function. The size of the speaker is, well, it tells you how big it looks. It's not going to tell you how it sounds. So that's why we've ended up with the bass guitar world of Barefaced not making a 15-inch cab, because we went with the 12s. They were the best way to get a high accuracy sound, and the 10s were the best way to get the sort of coloration that most bassists seem to want if they didn't want a high accuracy sound. There is a slightly different coloration that crops up in some 15s, so there is a bit of a pattern there to do with the breakup modes of the 15s, but it's not so popular. The 10s work better. We may, if enough of you email after this, maybe we'll make a 2x15-inch cab again as a limited run, but it means it's that we don't stock the 15-inch drivers. We need to get really good ones in. We used to use the Eminence Capellite 3015, which is a great driver, but we don't stock them anymore, and they are not cheap drivers, so we want to be buying a good quantity of them so we can give you a decent price on the cab. But yes, do hop in if you are determined to have a Barefaced 2x15. We will consider revisiting that. But in the meantime, I thought it was quite interesting to hear the differences between these. I'm ill prepared with a bass that I keep wanting to play in band practice and my bandmates keep flaking out on me. So I have the Stingray and I'll play a bit, do a bit of switching, and then do a bit of talking to try and explain what I'm hearing, and hopefully that you're hearing in the room, which is done by a large diaphragm condenser down here. So it's positioned so it's pretty much on axis with all the speakers pointing at it. So we've got a bit of room so you can actually hear the sound developing, because if you close mic a ported cab, you then end up with a discrepancy between the port distance to the speaker and the port distance to the mic, speaker distance to the mic. So you do actually need a bit of room for everything to add up correctly, sum properly like it really is. We'll start on the Jeff Berlin combo. One thought, which I'll revisit I shall visit in another video. I watched a Scott's Bass Lessons interview with Jeff Berlin, who is an incredible fusion player, but not someone who I've ever got into his playing. Also, really valued educator. But he said to Scott, "What's the fundamental purpose of a bass guitar?" And Scott was like, "Oh," and Jeff was like, "To play a note." I think that's wrong. I think the fundamental purpose of a bass guitar is to make a sound. Have a think about that. Bass philosophy. So although I'm playing bass, I'm going to start with some chordal stuff, so you can note the difference in the mids and highs. So I'll run through it first with the Mark Base 15, then with the Barefaced Celestion 15, and then with the Trace Fame 15. Then I'll do some low stuff, and then I'll do some talking. Actually, I'm going to do some talking now because there's some really, really obvious stuff going on. This Fane speaker in here has so much top end and so much mid-range detail that most people would assume you never get from a 15. This Mark Base is the opposite. It's got that kind of slightly blurriness, muddiness, boominess, not so much resolution in the mids. And I would say this Celestion BN15 400X in the middle is sort of splitting the difference. And there's a bunch of technical reasons why. So on the speaker front, because we're looking at the mids and highs right now, what we have here, we have a very lightweight paper cone, so that moves fast. It has really great resolution. It's really tight and clear, fast transient response. And that is on a cast aluminium frame, so it's a really rigid support structure for the motor. And then that has a huge ceramic magnet on it, so lots and lots of motor power. So essentially you have a system that has lots of power and very little mass, so it responds very quickly. So this is myth number one about 15s, that they're slow. They're not slow, not if you don't want them to be. This is fast and detailed. And then at the other end of this, pretty certain we've got a neo magnet on that, because this is a really light little combo, you know, for what it is. But we've got, I'm not sure what the cone's made of on these. It's painted some sort of orangey colour. It's got a huge dust cap on it to make it look cool. Tends to make things sound worse because the dust cap braces it, and that means that you don't allow the cone to flex naturally, which really helps in the mids and highs. It's great for a subwoofer, but that's not a subwoofer because you've got no other speakers. There isn't even a tweeter in that. So you do end up with this cone that the breakup modes just aren't very musical. So yeah, if you are after Jeff Berlin's sound, this sort of fusion sound that doesn't have a lot of top end, it's got a lot of mid-range, it's great for that. It's absolutely great for that. But it's not for me, and it may not be for you. And then this Celestion, we're basically halfway in between. We've, again, stamped steel frame on both of these rather than a cast aluminium frame. It's less expensive, it's less rigid. Sometimes it's lighter, sometimes it's heavier. I'd say stamped steel frames usually tend to be lighter than cast aluminium frames because there's just a lot less metal in them, even though aluminium is a lot lighter than steel, you know, less dense. Yes, neo magnet on it. And then the other effects, well, I'll play some actual bass and then we can talk about the other effects that I can hear in the room and hopefully is coming across on the mic. that was the bark bass. Let's do the bare face now. And now the trace with the fane in it. So hopefully you're hearing on the mic what I'm hearing in the room. It's quite obvious, but as I talk about it, I'll try and demonstrate some bits of it. As you can see, this is small. It's quite deep back to front, but it's not deep enough to make up for the fact that it is quite small, and actually this is dead space. So all the space of this enclosure is that bit, which isn't much bigger than a 15, and then the depth, and there's some ports in there as well. If you listen to the difference between the octave E and the open E, you will notice the note goes down, but the actual lows that are coming from it don't really change much. See what I mean? It's just like, you can hear you've gone down an octave because, you know, the stack of harmonics changes, but actually it doesn't feel any lower. So hopefully that mic's getting it, hopefully the room sound's getting it, and you're listening through something that goes low enough for you to hear that depth. What's if we go to the BM15400X, which is in a larger enclosure, so the speaker can essentially go lower because it hasn't got such a tight air spring pushing back on it at low frequencies. So you've got the see what I mean? It's got more depth. When it goes down, it actually feels like it's going down. It doesn't just pitch-wise sound like it's a lower note. And then the fane in the big cab. This is a huge cab, just to give you an idea of the size of it, because bear in mind this upsizing 1215 BB, we've got the 15 here, and then it also sort of steals size internal volume from the 12 in the top. So essentially it's that size, this cab. So like that bit's missing, but it's not that deep back to front, but it's still quite a lot bigger internally than that. This cab is huge. This cab is kind of the same width as that. It's almost as tall. It's substantially deeper. It weighs slightly more than the Moon. Yeah, I almost hurt myself quite badly carrying it, and I'm reasonably robust normally, but yeah, it's not very pleasant to carry. And it's made of MDF, which makes it even heavier, and you know, it's like got a big ceramic magnet. But upside of it being a big cab, not the upside of it being heavy. Heavy doesn't really make any difference. The magnet strength makes a difference, but we can do strong magnets with Neo, like in our 12XNs. So hopefully you can hear how that goes down when it goes down. It's a big enclosure, so the 15 gets to reach lower because it doesn't have this tight air spring pushing back on it at low frequencies, raising its resonant frequency. So the ports are tuned nice and low. The speaker itself is tuned low essentially. Yeah, the compliance is good. It wants to resonate low down. So as you can tell from this video, I appear to be trying to sell you a 35-year-old rusty 15-inch cab that weighs as much as the Moon and is really unpleasant to try and fit through doorways and into cars and stuff. So why aren't we all using these? Well, what it is, is when these were popular, the tendency was that you'd have a 410, which would stack on top of the 15. You'd have, say, a 500, 600 watt head, sometimes bi-amped into them, and they worked really well up to a point. And therein we get the problem with these vintage 15s, which is that although they can sound very good, I mean, listen to the top end on this. Let me just give you a quick demonstration. Shall I play some slap badly?
No.
I could do.
Wait.
Why don't I do that? Right. You see what I mean? It's got top end. The EQ on the Stingray, I've got mids flat, highs flat, a little bit of bass boost. Top end on this driver. So this 15, the Celestion in here, definitely mellower on the top. Possibly cleaner. There's a bitiness, a guitar speakeriness to this trace with the Fane. And then we go to the Mark bass. Pretty similar to the Celestion. There's definitely, I hear a cloudiness in the mids, but yeah, top end wise, yeah, similar thing. So this has got this top end as well. Light cone, light dust cap, big magnet, and the critical thing, short voice coil. So your voice coil, which is the bit of the speaker that essentially the power runs through, the current there generates a magnetic field that interacts with the magnetic field of the magnet, and that's what makes sound come out, because the voice coil gets pushed and pushes back against the magnet. That moves the cone, which moves the air, and then you hear the air moving, the vibrations. Short voice coil means it's low inductance, which means the highs get through much better. I mean, it's drastically different. So a subwoofer with a huge voice coil, it just doesn't let top end through, whilst a guitar speaker with a very short voice coil, low inductance, lets lots of top end through, so you can get a lot of top end out of a big speaker because it's being pushed by a short voice coil rather than a long voice coil. Downside of a short voice coil, the length of the voice coil is what pushes the speaker backwards and forwards. Short voice coil, it just can't push the speaker very far before it distorts. So here we have a speaker that sounds great. It's got loads of top, it's got lots of detail in the mids, you know, loads of top for something without a tweeter or a mid-range driver, but it has plenty of top end. I mean, just to give you an idea. Right, treble boosted on the Stingray. A lot of top end. But essentially, it just won't go very loud. So you've got this huge cab that just can't move air like you think it should, because you see a big 15-inch cone and think, well, that'll move a lot of air. But you have to move air three-dimensionally, and this can only move air a small amount in 3 dimensions. It looks like it will in 2D because it's a big cone, but once it starts moving, that voice coil runs out of movement. So yeah, this is the limitation. So this is why people were carting around a 410 on top of a 15 with a big bi-amp stack, like 1990-ish. And then eventually, as time moved on, more and more people left the 15 behind, because the 410 had 4 speakers, probably with similar excursion to the 15, but 410s is twice the cone area, roughly, of 115, but the cab was the same size. And yes, the 410 didn't reach as low, but you could bodge that with EQ. You could crank up the lows, get enough bottom end, and you didn't have to carry the enormous 15. So these ended up languishing around simply because they sound great, but they just don't generate a lot of output. And then this Mark bass 15 combo is like the other end of the spectrum. this small enclosure just doesn't want to go low because the speaker doesn't have room to resonate. So it doesn't have a lot of output at 50 Hertz at all, but it has loads at 100 Hertz, and that is functionally very effective. So if you've got a rehearsal room, like a Brighton Electric, which this is borrowed from, the great thing about the Jeff Berlin combo, you've got a 15 squished into a small box. It's very hard to blow that 15 because the air pressure behind it in the small box stops the 15 being moved too far, so you're unlikely to blow it mechanically. Thermally, the 15's got reasonable power handling, so you're unlikely to toast it. The flip side is, unless that sound is your sound, you may struggle with the fact there's not a lot of clarity in the highs. The mids are quite cloudy, and the lows just don't go that low. They're workable, they do the job, but do they excite you? Do they make you want to play better? Do they move your band emotionally in that sort of subconscious way that gets people excited and makes the music happen more? Because I think that's the thing I care about when I'm talking about this, because we don't just play a note, we generate sound. We don't just listen to notes, we listen to music. Music is sound, it's organised sound, and the sound is what moves us. And that's the difference between Miles Davis playing a note on a trumpet and some 10-year-old at school playing the same note. They might play the same note, they might both be in tune, but one of them moves you and the other one doesn't. So it's not just about notes, it's about sound. I'm probably rambling, but I thought it was quite interesting to visit the 15, talk about why these 15s can sound great but are functionally not very effective, why these 15s, in my opinion, don't sound great for a lot of us, but are functionally very effective, and why we appear to have made a guitar cab that can do bass, which is quite fun. And yeah, hopefully I've made some sense. I've been meaning to do this for ages, but work keeps getting in the way. This is work, I know, but you know, there's the other work I have to do. So thank you. I'll be back with some more thoughts. The other reason we've got this combo is that we have, hang on, is this one? Yes! I was borrowing a 1x12 mark bass combo because someone wanted to know how loud our Activire 110 is. So this is active 10-inch cab. And then I borrowed it and it turned out to be a 12. And it is, actually I will demonstrate how loud these go, but it is tiny cab. So I'll do another video with that in a bit. But yeah, that was the other thing I was going to do. Just demonstrate what we can do in terms of output. So let us just play the mark bass, so turn the master all the way up and let's... It does that thing. It does sound like a bass. It is bassy. The other thing you may have noticed when I was switching between, this is also very efficient. So you get a lot of loudness for a given amount of watts. So that's another reason why these will have been very popular some decades ago, where amps, you know, a 200 watt amp was a big amp. Nowadays it's a tiny practice amp. Yeah, we've reached the limit. I'll play softer and then I'll gradually bring it up. Yeah, we're just kind of getting to the limit of that. Let's see if we can compare it to the Celestion. limits of the construction of that combo enclosure cab thing rather than the speaker with the Mark bass. I'll turn it up a little bit more. Okay. Oh yes. Right, there we are. Really good when you crank it. I'm really liking that. The BM15400X, it keeps pushing. It keeps pushing. Yeah. Stay smooth. Smooth and clean. Yeah. The other thing about a small enclosure is you mess with the transient response. Because you decrease the compliance of the enclosure, that increases the springiness essentially, and that increases the peakiness of the resonances. So you end up with this sort of overhang, this underdamped response, which I'm really hypersensitive to. I just don't like it. I don't like it when my sound doesn't start and stop exactly when I want it to, because to me a lot of bass is a rhythmic thing. It's about timing, it's about being in the pocket, and I don't want to have to compromise my playing to adapt to the timing limitations of the speaker. Yeah. Fuzzy rattly thing. Boomy. Loud, effective. Doesn't set the world alight. Pain to move. Fat. Awesome. This is really fun if you buy amp. And, you know, say you run a wet dry rig, you can run the low end of your bass through the 15, and then you can run the top end, all your pedals, through the 12, which I think this one's got a red back in, if I remember rightly, on top of that being 15400X. So it's a cool rig. Right, hopefully this will be cool and we can chop it up into something coherent, because I'm quite out of practice at this. So I'll see you next time, and if you guys, you know, are desperate for Bareface to revisit the 2x15 thing, we can totally do that, if enough of you want it. Though we have got kind of a lot of other stuff to do first, so you may have to wait. So anyway, I'll stop talking. I'll see you next time. Maybe I'll have a friend in here to chat to at the same time. If not, I'll just be Lonely Alex from Bareface. Goodbye. How do I turn this off?